Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Dual Language Spot. My name is Juan Suarez. Jorge, how are you?
I'm doing very well, Juan. How are you? How was your weekend? Happy Father's Day, by the way.
That's right. Thank you so much, Jorge. Happy Father's Day. It was so nice. I didn't really do much other than spending time with the family and, eating. I'm always eating.
Yes.
How about you?
Yeah, I actually ate a lot. That's true. And I also have some friends visiting that we haven't seen each other for over 15 years. So we spent
Wow.
Father's Day together, and it was great. Honestly, now we were just talking that we've been 30 years friends. So I guess I'm getting a little bit old, man.
Well, my grandpa says, "Viejos los montes." The mountains are the ones that old. We are just we're just hanging out. We're young in spirit, young in spirit. Anyways, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. We are so excited for our third episode of Dual Language Spot Unscripted. Remember, we are interested in learning. We're interested in talking about any topics related to leadership, language, culture, and equity. So, Jorge, take it away. Where can people find us?
Okay, sorry. Yeah, they can find us on Twitter, Facebook, also in YouTube, following the Dual Language Spot at JJDLLSHP. That's our how you can find us. Also in our main blog page, dlspotblog.wordpress.com.
That's right. And you can find all the recorded sessions from the last couple of weeks. And we are live today. Who do we have today, Jorge?
I'm sorry, Juan. I just got freeze here. Could you repeat that again?
Yeah. Tell us who's joining us today.
Oh, okay. So today is Amy Mosquera. She will be joining us to talk about advocacy, like we've been doing during this series, but more from the curriculum instruction perspective.
That's right.
Also, yeah, how about we just take some time for those folks that don't know us, Juan, and introduce ourselves. Is continue with our.
I think you froze a little bit, Jorge.
I was just saying that how about we just for those folks that don't know us very well, so how about we just introduce ourselves, tell them who we are and who we are all about, and then we start with our show tonight.
That's right. Well, everyone, my name is Juan Suarez, and I live in Illinois. Have been working in education, especially in dual language programming, for over 10 years. And this is new to us. This is a new project that Jorge and I are starting.
Yes, I'm also an educator. I've been an administrator now for 10 years, 7 of them. I've been a principal in a dual language. So I'm very passionate about dual language and helping kids to learn both languages. And again, I'm also a learner. And recently, I'm learning a lot about social justice, equity. I'm very passionate about those kind of topics.
All
So
right.
tonight, yeah. So tonight we
Go
have
ahead.
Amy Mosquera. She's always been in education for over 25 years. Amy has focused in areas of second language acquisition and bilingual education with an emphasis in dual language two-way immersion programming. Amy holds a master's degree in curriculum and instruction with an emphasis on bilingual education and a master's degree in educational leadership. She is the lead consultant for Adelante Educational Specialist Group, which is specialized in supporting districts with their dual language programming and professional development needs, as well as biliteracy curriculum development. So let's give them a welcome to Amy.
we are.
Hi,
Hey,
guys.
Amy.
Hey, Amy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're very excited to have you here tonight with us.
I'm
And
excited
talking,
for being here. Thank you for having me on, and what a great introduction. I'm excited.
I think Jorge is might be having a. Are you with us, Jorge? You're getting frozen a little bit. That's the beauty of being live, everyone. We are live, and one of the things that we said when we started this project that was that we're going to be unscripted. We are going to take the punches as they come, and unfortunately, being live sometimes comes with some technical difficulties, Wi-Fi issues, and things like that. But we'll roll with it. So one of the things that we talked about. Let's jump in our topic. What do you guys say?
absolutely.
All right. Jorge, do you want to reintroduce the topic for our audience today?
Sure, absolutely. So we've been talking about advocacy for dual language and what that means for all of us, depending on for dual language. So tonight we're going to be talking about curriculum and instruction with Amy. So how about we start with Amy, like coming from that lens of being also a consultant, and when you go to you also help district to advocate for the dual language program.
Well, I think that, going to several districts, I have that advantage. I can see through my lens and learn from other districts. But I think where that advocating comes from, it's education, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need to educate those around us about our dual language programming. Why do we have dual language? What is the purpose of dual language? What are the goals of the program? So when I go to districts and we talk about that, we talk about, well, how are we educating the administrative level, right? The district level regarding the programming. How are we advocating at the staff, at the teacher level, the school level, as well as the community? How are we educating the community? So it's that constant education, ever evolving, right? We need to constantly be communicating and educating and talking about our programming. That way it becomes more of at the forefront of our planning instead of, oops, what about dual? We're going to put this into place. What about dual language? So that's always my recommendation to any district that I work with is we are educators. We are capacity builders. Building that capacity and understanding of why we are putting this program into place, what are the benefits, and how we're going to make it successful.
I like, Amy, that you mentioned that, and we talked about it in the last couple of shows. I think everyone who's been with us mentioned a very similar thing, right? Where advocating begins with learning and building capacity. And I think, one of the beautiful things about Dual Language Spot is that we are kind of modeling that right now. We're inviting people to kind of join us, even though we live and breathe dual language education on the daily basis in our roles in our individual districts. There's always that need to be continuously learning, because the more that we learn, the better we're going to be advocates and be able to collaborate with other people in our districts to make sure that, as you mentioned, things don't get forgotten. Because I think that is a sad reality sometimes in a lot of districts.
And I think many times we do a really good job of setting up our program, right? We're going to set up a dual language program. We're going to educate. We're going to do all of this professional development, but then we forget to keep doing it. That educating and that professional development for all stakeholders really should happen every year. It just should become part of the culture. I always say, we start and we educate our incoming kindergarten, and we really hold their hands, those families, when we start up the program, we really put a lot of time and effort. But then as the program begins to roll up, we forget that parents still need, and teachers and administrators. We all still need to have that constant learning as the program is rolling up and evolving, because it looks different going from kindergarten up through the grade levels into middle school or even into high school. And so that constant learning has to keep happening.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I'm just keep freezing over here. So I will be also working on changing my router over here as well.
No worries. I'll pick it up, Jorge. But I think one of the things that Amy mentioned that I think is very interesting is, when we jumpstart a program, we put in a lot of work up front to build capacity, to establish some structures, to begin some systems, and then we get rolling, right? And I think just in my experiences, what I've noticed that there's just still a little bit confusion about what dual language programming is. I think that sometimes when we talk to some people, they may think, oh, transitional bilingual. Yeah, that is kind of like dual language. Or yeah, the ESL teacher, yeah, they're working with the kids in dual language. But as you guys know, the way that we instruct, the way that we advocate for our teachers to instruct in each one of those particular models may look a little bit different. And even in dual language, right? Things have changed over the years. Amy, can you talk to us a little bit about just the progression of dual language curriculum and instruction in the last couple of years?
Mm-hmm. Sure. I think that, we've seen this evolution of dual language happening. The demographics of our students are changing. We are no longer receiving students who are monolingual Spanish speakers and monolingual English speakers if we're running a two-way immersion. Our students are coming to us as emerging bilinguals. They have both languages. Over 85% of the kids in pre-K through 5th grade were born here in the United States. Mm-hmm. So they have both languages. And so that dual language curriculum, there's a need, it has to evolve, right? We all know that best practice is, according to the guiding principles as well, is that content is integrated into our units, right? We have thematic content integrated units. However, where the shift is starting to happen is we really need to bring literacy through, and we need to bring literacy to the forefront through that content, as well as we need to pair our language and our literacy environments, meaning if we focus just on content integrated units without pulling through literature standards, students are missing a whole set of standards, right? Mm-hmm. Or we're only teaching content and we're not teaching that literacy. If we want our students to be bilingual and biliterate, the curriculum really has to reflect that it's standards-based, but that it's paired literacy, that we have informational text as well as literature text paired in the units, as well as we need to connect what's happening during Spanish literacy to English. And we really need to make sure that we lay out, here's what you're teaching in Spanish, standards-based, right? And here's how it connects to English language development time. And English language development time really needs to be literacy and language-based, so that we are working on proficiency. I think that's the biggest shift that really I have seen happening, is that many districts are looking at their data and they're saying our students are not moving along in their language proficiency, as well as they're not making the progression we need them to make in their biliteracy. And that's why we really need to pull that literacy through in both languages, and really making connections. We want students to use their full linguistic repertoire.
That's right.
We want them to feel a connection between what they're doing in Spanish and what they're doing in English. And so pairing that together so they feel a connection and helping them to make those cross-language connections. That's, that in a nutshell. That's a lot.
Yes, that's a lot to unpack right there. That was you were talking and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of information you just gave us right there,
Mhm.
right? So I just want to just go little by little because
Yep.
some of the things that you just talked about, like also I want to know more in terms of when you are in going to the district and start working with teams, starting with the programming, in terms of at what point, there are so many different programs for bilingual kids, and some of them, yeah, are good depending on uh, what the focus and what is the goal that we want out of there. But also, at what point do you say, okay, guys, we need to probably reshift our thinking as a team here because maybe this is not the best program, and maybe dual language is, or maybe actually is transitional bilingual a little bit better at this point. You know, so
That is true.
how do you do that kind of determination? And then I have a bunch of other questions later on by segment. So let's start with that part.
We'll start with that.
Yeah.
So when I first go to districts, we take a look at what is their current reality, right? So we run like a dual language leadership team or a bilingual steering committee. I have one district that calls it an EL vision committee. It's whatever the district would like, what is their vision? And so we start that way first, looking at what is our current reality. We look at all of the research in the field. What is the research telling us out there regarding all of the different program models? We look at their data and we say, how are our kids doing in our current reality? And then we go through a process to kind of work through what program model will fit best with our demographics and with our population, and how do we go about doing that? So many districts are moving from, for example, a TBE program into a one-way dual language first, and then they're transitioning from a one-way to a two-way. But like I said, it really depends on your district. It depends on your community. It depends on your Board of Education. And I just lead them through, but it's all research-based, looking at the research in the field, the different program models, and then looking at the data of the district and that local context of the district.
I love what you just said, Amy. I think that's very important. Jorge and I, we started working in one district, and then we move on to other different districts. And the local context is different in every place that we've gone. And I think as you mentioned, beginning with the reality, the current reality, it allows educators and teams to take a look at themselves and to start analyzing and unpacking what are the opportunities, what are the challenges that we might face, how can we get some quick wins right away, because I think that when we get those quick wins, people start experiencing the success, and then they go, okay, I can get on board with this.
Right.
But I really like that you mentioned too the importance of creating a leadership team.
Yes.
A leadership team. Jorge, did you guys have a leadership team over there where you work?
Yeah, we do. We have a team that's been evaluating the programming and things like that. Absolutely. But also just using the guidance principles for dual language.
And that leadership team has a variety of stakeholders, right?
Yes.
We have not just administrators, teachers, community members, BPAC members. We want it to be that shared learning together, because then we can advocate together. We cast a wider net when we build a strong team and we learn together.
Together is a phrase. That's right.
Right, exactly. So I have another part now of another thing that you mentioned, and it was really nice the way you said it. It was about curriculum and also advocating for the curriculum in Spanish as well as for English, and making sure, because sometimes we always go back and again, when I was working in my dual language academy, some of the things that I have to take the teachers through was like, this is new for all of us. So forget always thinking in English and always thinking that everything has to mirror the English, because that's what we used to do. But now the entire school is dual. So this is different. Now we advocate also for the Spanish, and we have to elevate that the language. But it's also in the curriculum part, like you say, also in terms of what is those texts that are actually in Spanish, how we're going to be teaching in Spanish, not in the English way, but in the Spanish way. You know, in syllables instead of letter by letter sounds. You know, and it's just those difference that we always have to keep reminding ourselves. So I think honestly, I really enjoy when you were talking about that piece, because it is true. We, as teachers and also administrators, the leaders that we're trying to develop this, we have to keep reminding ourselves also. In our case, well, at least in my case, when I learned Spanish, the way that I was taught as well, which is very different from the English.
True.
But there's also things that are very common. And then that's when we're we need to be smart, and then just work it together, so we don't then waste a lot of time in terms of teaching everything in English and everything in Spanish.
And I'm glad you said that. Yep, exactly. Because I always use, I always say our destination is the same. Whether we are a dual language program or we are a gen ed monolingual, classroom, we all want to get to Oz, right? We all want our students they have to hit those standards. That's Oz, the standards. However, in a dual language program, we need to take the yellow brick road, right? We need to take a different path to get to Oz. And we need to align not only ELA standards, but we have Spanish language arts standards that are specific to Spanish. And then we need to lay out, okay, our scope and sequence, here's how we're hitting our standards and our themes in Spanish. And then we need to lay out what's happening during English language development time. And exactly as you said, what I teach in Spanish, I'm not going to teach in English exactly. During English language development time, it is literacy based, it's language based, but it's also a time for us to teach what is different and specific to the English language. We don't want to do the same thing in English and the same thing in Spanish. Students are smarter than that, right? We know that they transfer. And so we need to map it out for teachers so that teachers know, what am I supposed to be teaching in Spanish? What am I supposed to be teaching in English language development time? And how do those two connect? And how do I help kids make those cross-language connections?
The best way that I remember learning about how we make sure that we make those cross-linguistic connections, so that we are strategic in how we map up our curriculum, so that we are teaching smarter and not necessarily harder, and that we see the results that we are hoping. The best way that someone explained it to me was, if you always teach the same things that you teach in Spanish and then you teach them in English, you're going to have students that are going to wait until the information is presented to them in the language that they're more comfortable, right? Exactly. So if I'm more comfortable in English, I'm not going to pay attention to what's happening in the Spanish, because I know that later on in the day, I'm going to get whatever is happening. And that might not necessarily be bad, but it is not as strategic, and it does not support building the connections between English and Spanish. And it's just not efficient. Amy, you and I have been doing some work together in my district, and you talked a little bit about pairing literacy. Can you talk to us a little bit more about what that is?
So when we pair literacy, we're pairing literacy. There's several ways that we can pair literacy, but we pair it through, maybe we take our literature standards and we pair it with our informational standards. We might pair it through genre, where for example, in Spanish, we might be working in, now you're going to make me think off the top of my head, but in Spanish, we might be working on structures and functions of animals. Let's just say that's science, right? Very informational. So then in English language development time, we're going to hit more of the literature standards and hit some folk tales, right? And fables that have animals in it, right? We're trying to make that connection and pairing the literacy. So it could be paired informational and literature. It could be paired by genre. It could be paired by theme. You know, maybe in Spanish, we're doing life cycles of animals, and in English, we're doing life cycles of plants, right? Yeah. How are we connecting and pairing? So that's the beauty of pairing, is that we're constantly helping kids to make connections and helping them to connect and use their full linguistic repertoire as well.
And I've noticed that when we pair themes very well, and we are strategic in teaching, supporting what happens in one language to what happens in the other language, that the kids start making connections because we're building their background, we're building their vocabulary, we're building their comfort level in the topic or in the theme that they're studying, even though it may not be in that language. But whenever they start seeing it in the other language, they go, oh, wait, I remember learning about that in DLD time, and that helps me understand what's happening right now in English. So the pairing is very important.
Yes. Pairing and connecting, not repeating.
That's right.
Or translating. Right. And once you set up that scope and sequence with your standards and your themes, then, like you said, Jorge, it's time to collect some of those resources so that teachers can teach authentically. We want to teach Spanish in the way Spanish was meant to be taught, Spanish literacy, right? We don't want to teach it a la English. And but same in ELD time. We want to make sure that our ELD time is English language development, so that we're also not teaching literacy how we would teach monolingual English literacy. We're pulling language in, really working on building oracy and vocabulary, like you said, and really bringing that language development through into the literacy.
Correct. Yeah. So,
well said, Amy. Thank you.
Yeah. So when we're working with the districts in developing the program, so what would you say that sometimes are the most common things that district miss that are actually very important for good implementation of dual language programming?
Regarding the curriculum, I think really looking at what is the best curriculum to meet the needs of our students. And when I say curriculum, are we going to develop our own scope and sequence with standards and themes and really pairing what's happening in Spanish to English? Or many districts say we're going to purchase a program, right? But purchasing that program, we really have to look at that program. And that program is only in one language. What's happening in the other language? We still need to identify for teachers what's happening in English. If we purchase a program in Spanish, we're not going to hit all of our content standards either, because those standards, those programs are not specific to each state. So we have to make sure that we're looking at that program, making sure we're able to fit in our content standards, but also identifying what is happening during English, for example, if we bought the program in Spanish. So that's where I think a lot of programs, because of time constraints, they purchase a program and think, that's it, just follow it. Follow it with fidelity. And it doesn't work, because we need to be responsive. We need to meet the needs of the kids that are sitting in front of us. And we know that changes year to year. So we need a curriculum that can be adapted and adjusted to the students sitting in front of us. And that's where the professional development comes in for teachers. Once we decide on what is our curricular framework, then we set up that framework. Then we need to offer professional development for teachers. How do I teach using this framework? And that is what is going to drive your instruction, which is also going to raise the achievement of your students. It's going to reach that bilingualism and biliteracy and that grade level academic achievement. But I think that districts many times rely on, purchasing a program because that's what they have time for, but they're not really digging deep into developing a plan. Okay, we're going to purchase this program. It meets our needs. But then now, how are we going to pair that with the other language? How are we going to lay all of this out? What is our timeline? What additional resources do we possibly need to add? And then how are we going to provide support and professional development for our teachers so that they feel supported with what we're asking them to implement? And that goes for a program or developing your own using good quality, authentic texts.
Yeah. So if I'm hearing correctly, Amy,
I think you said it very well in terms of.
We have some delay. Go ahead, Jorge. Take it away.
Yeah, no, I was just saying that you said it very well in terms of, making sure that regardless of the program, we also have a framework for the teachers, and then provided that professional development support in order to be able to deliver the programming. I'm sorry.
Yes.
So if anyone who is watching us today, we're live. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Amy is here with us, and she's giving us a lot of really cool tips and a lot of drops of knowledge. If you are a school leader who is either working in a established dual language programming or starting to think about how to jumpstart a dual language programming, there's one thing that Amy is reminding us that we must not forget, and that is, how are we going to be intentional in helping our students make cross-linguistic connections between what's happening in English and what's happening in Spanish, and making sure that the standards that we are teaching, that they are being covered strategically in both English and Spanish, both of the languages. Because if we don't, right, if we just purchase a program or we make up a program ourselves and we miss those cross-linguistic connections, we miss teaching how to read and write in both of the languages, then we don't have a dual language program. We don't. So that's very, very important. Thank you so much, Amy. Thank you. Jorge, wrap us up. We're at 32 minutes in our show. What do we got?
All right. So first of all, thank you to our guest, Amy, for joining us tonight. Honestly, this has been a really rich conversation. I really enjoy it. I hope that we have more time to continue this conversation. Yes. Curriculum instruction is huge. So it's very important that we have the right materials, the right times allocations, the right programming for our kids, and that we advocate for that. So Amy, thank you so much. I really appreciate it and learned a lot from you tonight.
Thank you so much for inviting me. This was a lot of fun, and I learned too. This is great.
Amy, if we could ask you one more question, if you could summarize to us and maybe like 3 points, takeaways that our viewers, either who are watching us live today or who are going to watch this episode later on, recorded, what would those 3 things be?
So I think if I had to break it down to just 3, right? What is our curricular framework going to be? What is happening in Spanish? And what is happening during English language development time, right? And how are we connecting our language environments and pairing our literacy, really bringing our literacy through to the forefront? That's hard to put in only.
Yes, that's hard. Yeah, I was gonna say it's hard.
Curriculum and instruction is a big topic. You almost need a whole series, right? Because without that strong curriculum and that framework, you can't. The instruction you can't move along, right?
So let's see if I got them. Number 1, make sure that we have a framework of that is going to help our teachers kind of know when they teach, what do they teach, how do they teach it, right? That framework is very, very
The what?
important.
Yep.
The what. Number two, bringing the cross-linguistic connections of what happening in one language to what happened in another language by following the strategies you mentioned of pairing texts and pairing themes. And some districts do that, right? And then number three, remind me of number three again.
Number three was the literacy, really pulling the literacy through with the content as well. I mean, I have more. I could keep going,
yes.
right?
Oh, I'm sure. Yes.
Well, a plan. You have to have a plan. I think in a nutshell that's the umbrella. We have to have a plan for our curriculum development.
Thank you, Amy. Those are really cool tips. Thank you, everyone who joined us. Amy, where can people find you? Tell us about you, about Adelante. Where can people find you? How can they collaborate with you?
If you're interested, well, my Twitter handle is right there at Grupo Adelante. So you can find me on Twitter. You can find me on LinkedIn as well, and as Adelante Specialist. Facebook. I also have a website, adelantespecialist.com, that you can contact me directly through there. So I look forward to, hearing from you, as well as collaborating further. Dual language is my passion. Adelante, we pride ourselves in really customizing and meeting the needs of the district, their local context, working on their programming, working on their professional development needs in the area of biliteracy instruction, curriculum development, and we just added on coaching and support for not only staff, teachers, but also administrators.
That's great.
Awesome. That is great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Amy.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jorge. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll see you next week. We will have another special guest.
Yes.
Tell us about our guest, Jorge.
It will be Crystal Jimenez. She is the principal in Wheeling District 21, and she will be talking about MTSS in a dual language program. She is one of my colleagues now, so we're very excited to have her in our show.
Great.
Can't wait.
Yep.
Have a great night, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.